So I decided to do my intervention on teen vaping and drug use. The community assessment that I did was in Utah, specifically Salt Lake County. So in Utah, it's one of the youngest nations in the US, with 31% of the population being under the age of 18. So that means we have a huge portion of our population that are adolescent age. More specifically, the community that I assessed was a baseball team out of South Jordan, Utah, but they also come from all different parts of Salt Lake County. But most of their practices are based in Kearns as well as South Jordan, West Jordan area. The ages of the team were 12 to 14 years old, as well as in the grades of basically in the grades of 7th to 9th grade. So with this community in Salt Lake County, they are the second highest county in the state for teen vaping, drug, and alcohol abuse. So they have a high percentage of adolescents that take part in these different things and issues that can be risky behavior. So for the state, they are the second highest population. So the community problem and diagnosis was that Salt Lake County in general has seen a steady increase of teen drug use and vaping throughout the last few years, especially since vaping has become very, very prevalent among the teen population. So the potential harms of this are and long-term consequences that come from teens and using these substances have been shown to be very harmful and contain harmful substances and to also be very addictive. The effects that can come from these are many and countless, and I don't think I could include all of them, but some of them are delayed effects on their puberty and reproductive system, as well as higher liver damage can be seen in this when teens consume these, as well as effects on brain and developmental synapses in their brains. So the goals that I set out to do for this population, to teach them about vaping and drugs, is that they would learn the risk factors that could happen with drug use or vaping and have some education and learn how to stay away from these things, as well as why to stay away from these things, because they can benefit their lives in many different ways to keeping them safe and happy and free from issues later on in life. Mainly to do with mental health issues, drug addiction, and emotional distress, as well as possible crime activity that they could experience later on in life that comes from using drugs or vaping or alcohol when they're teens, as well as a good portion or percentage of the population that smoke in adulthood. The majority of them started in their teen years. So those were our goals. So this was the pamphlet or infographic that I showed to them, that just talked a little bit about, the potential harms and that vaping could cause. It just talks a little bit about vaping causing serious long-term consequences to person's lungs, as well as effects on their immune system, as well as 9 out of 10 smokers start before the age of 18. The percentage of 8th graders report that vaping in the last 30 days is about 10% of that population, which is quite high, as well as addiction, and that when you start at an earlier age with these substances, and that can lead, and you usually have a greater chance of having addiction develop later on in life and having substance abuse problems later on in life the earlier you start. I also talked with them about teen drug use and issues that could happen from this, besides addiction, that could lead to unsafe sex and more likely to struggle in school and health problems later on, as well as in their teen years. And then I went on to talk about effects of these drugs on the body, which kind of went over as delayed puberty and effects on the reproductive system, as well as shorter limbs and reduced growth potential, which I think had a significant impact upon these boys who they do have a risk of having participating in these things, but they also have a deterrent because they're a part of a school, or they're part of a sports program, which can help to minimize that factor. But them hearing that they might have delayed puberty, or it could make them shorter, is a really big deal to these baseball players, because they all want to be over 6 foot. That's kind of, boys, and something that they really look for and really try and really want in their lives is to be taller. So I think that really had a significant impact on them. I also just went over with them resources for teen drug abuse. So there's the SAMHSA's National Helpline, and then the free number that's on there, as well as having listing counselors as well as doctors, and that they have resources outside of their home, at school, as well as the doctors. But they also can, and I emphasize that they should talk to their parents, and that the parents should talk to their kids about this, because that can be a huge deterrent for kids before their teenage years, but also as well as when they're in their teenage years. I feel like the boys were pretty receptive to what I had to say, but they were also kind of in their own world, since they were around their friends, peer pressure and stuff. But I think I got through and made an impact somewhat, as well as having their parents around somewhat made it, and encouraged their parents to also talk to them about these things that are going on in their life. So the community intervention was that I brought, the baseball team together, and some of the parents were there, and they listened to the presentation, and I presented the infographic about teen vaping and drug use. So the Healthy People 2020 goals were, they didn't have a specific one for vaping or e-cigarettes, but they had a kind of sub-objective that was a TU3, which focused on reducing, tobacco use among children and adolescents and young adults. as well as there was a SA-13 objective for adolescents, which is the consumption of alcohol, was lower for Salt Lake County, but also higher for marijuana use. And that's it.